for you.
Who is you?
Sort of short. My name's Eliot Rosenstock.
No, no, not
oh, who's you?
Who is you?
You're Slavoj, Zizek.
Yeah, me, yeah.
You.
No.
Yeah. So you describe in the Parallax view Lenin's sort of attraction to abstract art, sort of unrelated. I was wondering if you see any sort of similar attractions from today's leader into something sort of that seems unrelated, because you describe it as there's no relation between these fascist abstract art makers and Lenin's political views, but in a way they're both...
Why fascist? Sorry, why fascist?
I believe that's how it was. I believe that's how you wrote it. I think it was like they were part of supporters of fascist regimes, or not, if not supporters, members, or etc. But
this was about the torture chambers at the beginning of Parallax.
yeah, that was a great. I love that.
Oh, but that was okay,
but the question is, that seems. I've been talking with people about it, and they say, well, the similarity where it comes together is revolution. So they sort of revolt in art. He sort of revolts in politics. So there is sort of, even if not immediately apparent, there is a connecting factor. So I was wondering maybe if you see any parallaxes in today's leaders with similar sort of stuff.
I see. No, what fascinated me at that point, that it's so popular, that was the avant-garde dream. What Bolsheviks did in politics, we are doing in art. But what fascinates me is how nonetheless these two levels, for some structural reason, cannot ever come together. In the sense that you will never get a politician who would, I think it's a deep necessity that all big Bolshevik leaders were, in their art tastes, pretty traditional, and so on. So this is what interests me, how I agree that they are in some way parallel, but nonetheless they cannot come together. The illusion of constructivists and so on was that they will come together. They will basically, it's a very vicious reading, expecting the Bolshevik state to recognize them, like we are in art what you are doing in politics. And although Bolsheviks were pretty progressive here, for example, people don't take this into account. Did you see the disgusting movie Dangerous Method? Keira Knightley as that Sabine Spielrein or who, the patient of Jung who turned to Freud. Yeah. But the movie stops at the crucial moment. You know what happens with her afterwards? She moved to Soviet Union. She established in early 20s the first psychoanalytic Freudian kindergarten. Where? In Kremlin. You know that it's okay. I don't want to get it. So what fascinates me in this, that sometimes phenomena which move at which are really the same tendency in a different level in politics, in art, for this very reason cannot connect in reality, has to remain disparate. Here also we should be very brutal. I wonder if you would agree and reread Stalin's imposition of socialist realism. It wasn't, there was striving multiplicity in the 20s, and then brutal Stalin came, imposed socialist realism. In all histories that I've read, Stalin's introduction of socialist realism was an extremely popular move, because ordinary people were sick
Popular for whom? I mean,
for ordinary people who were sick and tired of, I am for them, but of those, are we aware how unpopular among broad population futurists, constructivists were, and so on and so on? Do you know that Eisenstein's, those late movies, October, The Old and the New, they were a total fiasco. They played for 2 weeks in a suburban movie movie theater in Moscow. So what Stalin offered to people...
Wasn't Eisenstein Potemkin completely enacted by the people? Or at least
no, it was the other way around. I know what you are referring to. When they were celebrating, I don't know which anniversary of the revolution.
And they paraded the Third International
you are probably referring to that famous where all of them participated, all the artists, how is called the one, Black Square, my God, Black Square. Malevich and so on, that big reenactment of revolution in 1920-21. But already Potemkin, I read analysis here. It was a hit abroad, my God, Soviet cinema. It wasn't a big success in Soviet Union itself. What they liked there was Charlie Chaplin, Mary Pickford, and so on.
I don't think they had very many cinemas to actually watch.
Oh,
any
it's
of
a
this
miracle.
film, right?
They did in the 20s. There was a free import of films. My God, I saw Douglas Fairbanks and Mary Pickford visited the Soviet Union. It was thousands of people gathering them and so on and so on.
But
So,
the question, I think, also has to do with moving into the 30s, where Shklovsky, whose brother was sent to the Gulag in order to bring him up into the construction sites of the canals,
Yeah.
along with Rodchenko, who then produced the propaganda machine for USSR in construction, which becomes a kind of Western version of this socialist realism, where they actually produce rendered photography as a kind of vehicle for
I agree
bringing
with you. It
this
was a
vision.
tragedy, horror, the way Stalin crushed avant-garde. I just think we should see the 20s in a much more problematic way. They were not a lost paradise. For example, I've written about it, and Boris Groys edited the documents with Zurkamp 2 times 1,000 book on. You know what was almost the predominant popular view, not among ordinary people, but among the intellectual elite in the 20s? A kind of Soviet version of tech Gnosticism. They did it the first, what Ray Kurzweil and others are doing it today. Trotsky even was part of it. I quote it somewhere. Trotsky wrote in 25, the big test of communism is not just destroying capitalism and so on. We should move forward and create a new man, and he means it literally, in the biological sense. Homo sapiens, we should say, goodbye Homo sapiens, you did his work, you are too primitive, and so on. And they had a very precise metaphysical vision. They claimed that sexuality is the enemy, the ultimate enemy, because now we conquered political power, economic power, but sexuality is still too spontaneous. So their idea is this one, a very precise one, that our feelings, sentiments, should work like in a machine, how to call it, where you read what is the temperature and so on.
Thermometer.
Sorry?
Thermometer.
Yeah, that we should acquire this distance towards reality, that, you know, you don't feel heat, fear, pleasure. You just register it, and then you regulate your life and so on. It was all this idea, which is, I found wonderful predecessors to this idea. My favorite Cartesian philosopher, Malebranche. He had this idea that for him, the original position of Adam was like this. Before the fall, Adam had this type of distance. And he says clearly, they were having sex like crazy in paradise. But
On
it
that
was
note,
totally
should we-
mechanic sex. For Adam, raising his penis was exactly the same as raising his hand. He did it as hard work. Then comes fall. You know what is fall? Fall happens when you lose this distance and are immediately affected by reality. And the origin of the fall for Malebranche is naked Eve. When Adam saw naked Eve, he made an epistemological mistake. He thought, oh, now I'm in direct contact with objects. And then he has a wonderful theological idea that God punished man because Adam and said, okay, you think you will be like me, a master? I will punish you so that I will make it so that part of your body will be incontrollable by you. And you have a long theory in Augustine on this, how the true punishment for sin is erection. You know, you cannot control it. It happens when you don't want it, when you want it, it doesn't happen, and so on. So it's and all this re-emerged surprisingly in the. This is the most interesting phenomenon of the 20s, I think. And they were all in it. Even Trotsky was tempted by it. It goes as my gratitude to Lenin that he never fell for it. Bogdanov, great Lenin's opponent, was into it. This idea of creating immortality, we should all move to a higher level of existence, and so on and so on. So all I'm just saying is the 20s are not just the simple avant-garde phenomenon. Very weird things happened in the 20s.
Yeah, I think, are we
What?
Are we done?
I think we have
Yeah, but there is another typical of you. Look,
There are many questions.
No. You were a centrist, but you ignored the left and the right.
Okay. Daniel,